Welcome, everyone. Welcome. As you were wondering where I am, I was just talking about it, but I'm in Frederick, Maryland. I'm joining you all from Frederick, Maryland. My body feels broken, my brain's foggy, so if I don't make any sense, it's probably because all glucose has been drained out of my body. But yeah, I was out there riding for like 10 hours today, so yeah, so I apologize if I seem a little out of it, but yeah. On that note, just a few announcements before we get started. So I need to wrap up enrollment for next month. So if you have not taken care of the invoice, please take care of your invoice if you're planning on joining us. If you're not, just let me know so I can prepare for it. But otherwise, I'm going to start kind of chasing everybody tomorrow because I need to put it all together and process wines on Friday. So in 2 days. So help me get that all figured out. So yeah, please take care of the invoice or let me know if you're planning on skipping. Second, I'm sure you've all seen the email, but I I turned 45 on Monday. And this whole yeah, so I'm closer to 50 each day
Oh,
that passes than I
bastard.
am to 40. Yeah. And as a way to somehow prove to myself that I can still do it, I'm doing this fucking crazy bike ride. And that's why I'm in Frederick. And that's why I was out there spending 10 hours on a bike today. But yeah, so doing a bike ride at the beginning of September from Barcelona to San Sebastian. It is the craziest physical challenge I've ever tried or attempted. But yeah, so that's all happening in a couple of weeks. But as a part of, I mean, you all have heard me do this. I do this every year. But as a part of my shameless self-promotion, I'm asking you if you ever wanted to buy me a birthday drink, I would much rather take that as in a form of a donation. So I'm pretty close. So as a part of my pledge to this climate ride, it's 5,800 bucks this year. I've already raised 4,000. You guys have already donated like 500 bucks since the email went out yesterday. So now I'm really only just over $1,000. So help me get there. So I just put the link in the chat box there. If you want to buy me a birthday drink, i.e., make a donation instead of buying me a glass of wine, then the link is right there in the chat box. So help me finish out this fundraising. So there it is. Besides that, I don't really have any other questions. Other announcements? Oh, and next month, just in case the theme matters, we're actually going to go to southern Italy. So we're going to go to Abruzzo. Um, in case you weren't aware, recently, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a living legend, or now a dead legend, but a legend by the name of Emilio Pepe passed away. He is a winemaker from Abruzzo, and he is probably single-handedly responsible for putting Abruzzo kind of on the international radar. Somebody that I've always looked up to. Anyways, so it's kind of my way. I haven't put together a Abruzzo box, and it's my way of a kind of paying homage to a very historical and influential figure from that region. So we're gonna go to Abruzzo. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do next month, in case that matters. Any questions about any of that before we get started? Cool, excellent. All right. We are jumping into week three with this bottle today of Saltbox. 2024 Tenuta de Vallone Rosso Etna Bianco is what we're tasting today. Technically, it's not yes, the wine is from the mountain of Etna, but as you can see on the side, it's not a Etno DOC, it's a Siciliane DOC because this particular producer and where the vineyards are is actually just outside of Etna demarcation line. We'll talk more about that in a second, but just know that yes, it is from Etna, but it's not from classically or what they define as an Etna DOC. So it is technically a Siciliana DOC or DOP, but the fruit comes from 100% of the fruit comes right from Etna. All right, so let's start with a map. Here we go. There's a map of Italy. So you should, you guys all know where Sicily is by this point, but in case you weren't aware, we're right here. It's kind of like what did we say? It was like the rock that the toe of the boot, right? This is the boot. This is the heel of the boot. This is the toe part of the boot. It's kicking. It's a rock. It's basically what Sicily is, this gigantic island in the middle of a Mediterranean. And yeah, so this whole thing is Sicily. But if you look a little more closely, this is kind of how Sicily divides. And we've had Sicily, we've put together Sicilian box. We featured many Sicilian wines in Six Foot Wine Club over the years. But where we are today is right here, Mount Etna, which is on the eastern part of Sicily. As you can tell by this illustration here, Etna is not just a wine region, it is actually a active volcano. And the vineyards are essentially planted right on the slopes leading up to around the base and kind of up to the middle slope of Mount Etna. So we're talking about a very, very volcanic, as you can imagine. Um, and this whole area, because you're in the middle of a Mediterranean Ocean, right? I mean, surrounded by Mediterranean Ocean. You can imagine the climate here is very Mediterranean. What that means is the summer is quite warm, and then the winter is very mild. But due to its elevation here, I think I actually have a picture. Here's a picture of the actual vineyard of the producer. Here's Mount Etna in the background. I mean, look at how much snow is up there. So as you can imagine, there's quite a bit of elevation here, the altitude. So all that, what that is to say is that what we have today here is a high elevation Sicilian white wine grown on lava, ash, volcanic soil with a lot of wind blowing through it. Daily temperature swings, the diurnal shift is very, very wide because of the temperature, because of the altitude. So I mean, it's all the things that we like in grape growing, and it's essentially what Mount Etna has. Um, so I mentioned earlier why this is outside of an Etna demarcation line. So Tenuta de Vallone Rosso is based in, it doesn't show on this map, but a town called Bianco Valle, which is on the western side of Mount Etna, facing southwest. A lot of the Etna vineyards are on the eastern and southern side of Mount Etna, mostly facing south and mostly face east, just to kind of maximize the sun exposure. But his vineyards are southwest facing, so David, I guess so who, the power that be that determines who, where Mount Etna grapes can be grown, or if you're going to put Etna on the bottle, they decided that the where this particular producers or family vineyards are, it's not Etna enough, even though it's grown right there on the Etna. On the altitude, it's just facing it. It's a southwest facing vineyard instead of the most south or southeast facing vineyards that you normally find. Italians, what are you going to do? Um, we'll get into the kind of all the things, what makes this wine salty and what role volcanic soil plays on all this, right after we taste it, like we did last week. So yeah, hold on to that for a second. So let's talk about who makes wine. By the way, this is a vineyard, like I mentioned. This is Mount Etna in the background. Um, he works with the very, very old vines, as you can see. These are actually, some of them are centenarian, so they're over 100 years old. Unrooted, these are pre-phylloxera vines that his family have had. So we're talking about very old, rare vines on Mount Etna that this producer plays with, uh, makes wines from. As you can see, Mount Etna in the background. All right, let's talk about who makes this wine. It's this gentleman, young guy, Gianluca Fernari is his name. The young grower from Bianco, like I mentioned, on the lesser known southwest side of Mount Etna. His family had farmed these vineyards for generations, mostly making wine for themselves. It's never really commercial, but many of the old plots had eventually been abandoned. But before his uncle passed away, Gianluca promised them that he wouldn't let the family vineyard disappear. So after his uncle passed, so at around 30 years old, he started bringing them back to life, beginning with barely half a hectare. So, I mean, half a hectare is nothing. Even a hectare is nothing. Today, he farms about 3 hectares, much of it old or even century old Albarella vines, which are those vines that you saw. Basically, untrained. I mean, DC, you see the trails coming through, but a lot of these Albert, he put it in later. Originally they were just basically bush vine trained, which means they're not trained. It's just that kind of grown like trees. Central Albarella vines sitting way up around roughly 780 to 1080 meters in elevation. So his first commercial vintage was only 2021. So we're talking about a very, very small producer. Uh, the only producer, only importer for the US importer for his all of his wines, and obviously they can't really bring it in. But if you look at the size, the Doria Wines is based right here in Maryland. It's our local importer, and they specialize in bringing these really small scale uh, uh, producer. So we're very lucky that we happen to be living in an area where this import exists and that they start bringing it in. So we're talking about, he made, I think, 6,000 bottles last year. So we're talking about a very, very small producer. I mean, most importers wouldn't even, they can't even bring it in just because it just doesn't make enough wine to make it worth it. Um, the favorite part about his story and then this producer is that this isn't some like rich guy's Etna Valley project, which happens a lot. So after Mount Etna has become Sicily as a whole, but particularly Mount Etna has become really popular in the wine world. So a lot of money is coming in, a lot of people from other regions who have made money, a lot of non-wine industry people that are just buying up vineyards in Mount Etna. So there's a lot of vanity project that's happening here, and it's not that. So Gianluca still works in his family's scrap metal and roadside system business as his main daytime job and farms the vineyards whenever he can. So the goal here is eventually to make wine his a full-time job. But as of right now, I mean, at 3 hectares, there's no way you can make a living just farming and making wine from 3 hectares of vineyard. So we're essentially drinking a family rescue mission from the side of a volcano, which I like to support and which is super cool. So anyway, so what is this wine? This is a 95% Caricante. Caricante is like the white grape of Mount Etna. And then rest of 5%, the balance is Catarato and Minella Bianca, which are all three very indigenous grape varieties of Sicily, grown on 2,500 to 3,500 feet in elevation. So again, high elevation grape growing here. The vines are old. The youngest vines that went into this bottling is 75 years old, and it goes all the way up to 130. So we're talking about very old vine wine, all planted on volcanic soil in southwest facing plots. Spontaneous fermentation in stainless steel tank. 7 months in stainless steel on the lees with the bottonage, then at least 4 months in bottle. So there's no wood here. This is all stainless steel. It does get some lees aging and bottonage to kind of build out the body and all of that. In case you've never had Caricante, I love Caricante. It's one of my favorite grapes from Sicily. It reminds me of like licking lemon pith that's been dragged through like a lava, ash field. It kind of shows a lot of minerality, a lot of salinity, a lot of citrus, a lot of acid, naturally super high in acid. I mean, which are all the things I like. So yeah, this is 95% Caricante, with the remaining 5% being Catarato and Minella Bianca is what we have here today. Uh, cool. Any questions about any of that before we get to tasting? Excellent. Let's taste the wine. Who wants to take the appearance?
I'll do it.
Come on, somebody. All
Okay.
right, Phil.
All right. This wine is clear,
This wine is clear.
clear. This wine intensity is pale.
Yeah, that's a medium
I'd say
minus.
it's pale.
Yeah,
Not of lemon, maybe a
I
little
get
cream.
I get a little bit of gold fleck here. I would call this either like a pale gold or like a medium lemon. Somewhere around there is what I would call this.
You think it's that bright? I mean, it's
I mean, it also maybe the lighting that I have is all very yellow lighting that I have here, but
yeah,
I'm seeing quite a bit of let me get some white background.
yeah. I mean, it's super
Yeah,
clear.
maybe not.
It's super light, super
Yeah,
light. Uh, it has no deposits. It has uh, no petulance.
yeah.
No, it's just a pretty wine.
Just a lemony.
Yeah,
Yeah, no other deposits or signs of gas.
right.
Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the nose.
All right. Uh, Liz, you want to go?
Hi, everybody. I'm here with Kayla and her parents.
We're a whole party today.
So they may join in with some of the observation, but being
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. So
We're gonna bring this closer because we're
this
blind.
wine is clean.
Yeah, this wine is clean. This wine is sound. I will say this. This wine is quite reductive when it's first open. If you have not decanted your wine, I recommend you do. If not, just let it sit and just kind of swirl it around, like get some air in there. But it's just all that stainless steel, no wood. There's some reduction on this. It blew off already quite a bit since the first time I poured this, but there's a little bit of stink on here. But it will blow off. All it needs is some air. Intensity.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we already heard pineapple from the table, but first we'll start with intensity. So how far away from our nose we smell it?
Pretty
far away.
Pretty far away. Medium plus.
Medium plus, I'd
I'm not
say.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pretty intense. And then
medium plus intensity and
Same, so far away.
yeah. So the aroma characteristics. Let's look. I mean, where do we like flowers is the first question, right? So I think I don't know. I guess you could say some
floral,
some intense.
definitely
white.
citrus, definitely tropical fruit.
yeah. Do you get well, are we hearing two different things? Some people get flowers, some people don't. Is that what I'm hearing?
I smell some flowers.
I
Do you
smell
guys
flower,
get any
yeah.
flower?
Like hibiscus-y kind of.
Interesting. Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
more white flower, but yeah.
White flowers.
Yeah, maybe a touch of like a white flower. I mean, it's not hugely a floral wine, but
Oh no,
Not
but
overly
yeah.
subtle, but a touch.
yeah.
yeah, I get some flowers. And then the next question is green fruit. So apples, gooseberries, pears, pear drops, quince.
I'm not getting a lot of that.
I don't either.
Really, I mean, we usually get a lot of apple, and I'm not getting any.
And then for citrus, like grapefruit, lemon, lime,
Maybe more peel.
peels,
Yeah.
or pith. So I think definitely the pith I smell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I get a ton of that lemony, pithy kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
Strong
Ton of
fruit.
just lemony citrus. Yeah, a lot of it.
And then the next question is stone fruits, peaches, apricots, or nectarines.
I mean, it doesn't not, but I think
Nectarine,
I'm
maybe like a white,
maybe a little more white peach
I would
nectarine.
believe that.
But I'm getting
I
more.
don't get much stone fruit, honestly. If anything, I actually get a little bit of this up here, like maybe gooseberry, maybe some of this. But yeah, to me, the fruit here is it's not like it doesn't smell like fruit that comes from a very warm place, even though it is a warm place, but it is quite cold up here because of that temperature, I mean elevation. So
Yeah.
citrus, touch of maybe green fruit. But yeah,
And
no
then
tropical fruit, no stone fruit for me.
pineapple we heard, which I
Yeah,
totally
pineapple. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, this is very much of like a citrus, like a green fruit kind of a thing for me.
And then red fruit, black fruit, dried
No.
cooked fruit, no. Herbaceous, which could be green bell peppers or grass or tomatoes or
There's a lot of that.
Well, before we get herbaceous, do you get any? Let's talk about the character of the nature of the fruit. Is this like ripe, super ripe, underripe, overripe, cooked and jammy? What we're talking about?
I mean, right. I don't know.
I don't think no, it's very
I
fresh.
don't. Yeah, I think it's pretty
It's not
fresh.
sweet.
Yeah,
It's more under.
Yeah, I think it's very fresh, very ripe, but nothing like overripe, nothing underripe. It's like a perfectly fresh and ripe. Yep.
Yeah.
Any herbaceous and herbal? So non-fruit, non-sweet things?
No,
I don't really get an herb.
no, not. I'm not herbing.
But we
I don't
were
know.
talking about spices, but maybe more on the finish.
Subtle
I get some of this like a subtle fennelly,
Yeah.
subtly something savory here. But yeah, nothing like a unripe, nothing green, like green bell pepper or like leaf or anything. But I get a little bit of like the fennel. Any spice, any minerality?
Definitely a little minerality.
Definitely
Um,
minerality.
This is ton of fucking minerality. Like to
Yeah.
me, this is like
I have wet rocks over here.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is like that. I mean, this is what Caricante does. It always reminds me of this, but particularly the Etna Caricante, it's like literally if I can somehow imagine like a lemon, not even the flesh, but like the pith, like the white pithy part, just like again, like I said, dragged across like a volcanic, ash is like what I got here. A lot of like
I got a lot more pith last week than this
Yeah.
one, but it's definitely there.
yeah. Any secondary, any tertiary?
So the secondary ones are like when you smell the yeast or
No.
any
It's
sort
very
of like
crisp. I don't smell any
definitely
yeast
not.
or-
Yeah, none of that. I don't get many secondary.
Yeah.
Very fresh to
Phil
me.
just typed in Flint, but that's like exactly right. Like the volcanic minerality is that kind of got that like smoky, gunpowdery. If you ever like lit your lighter and then
Yeah.
like have it goes out,
Yes.
if you smell
Yes.
that Flint, that kind of a minerality here.
Call. That's a great call.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then no tertiary.
Yeah.
So those are like the deliberate oxidation fruit development. This is a 2024 wine, so it wouldn't have that.
Yeah, no bottle aging here, or it's not old enough. So you shouldn't get tertiary. It is possible you could get tertiary, but you shouldn't get tertiary at this age. And nothing secondary here. Yeah, I mean it did spend 7 months on the lease and then Batanach, but I don't get a whole lot of this either. So yeah, to me, this is still very much up in the primary fresh fruit world.
Yeah.
Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the palette.
Are there any volunteers? I don't want to take away somebody's joy. All right. Yes, go.
So really dry, like
The bone dry.
yeah, like
There's
dry.
no sugar on this whatsoever.
No.
Oh. All right, acid.
I'd say medium plus. Gets me in the back.
Yeah, I mean it's like pulling him back. My mouth is watering. I'm gonna call this at least medium plus.
Yeah.
Tannin?
No tannin. Alcohol. I haven't had it like medium, like 12-13%.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 12.5, 13 maybe.
Yeah, it's
12.5. Yep. So right in medium.
yeah, so medium.
Body?
I think there's some body on this. I think there's like medium.
Yeah, like a low in the medium, high in the
Yeah.
medium minus,
I mean,
somewhere
it's
around
not,
there.
yeah, like
1% or
else.
2%, depending on the wine's temperature. Warmer it is, it usually feels a little bit bigger. So my
Yeah.
one's very cold right now. So
And
yeah,
mine is super cold. Like I forgot
yeah.
to pull it out. So
So either way, it's right around the medium minus medium, probably depending on the temperature. You will probably
yeah.
feel different things.
Yeah.
Most we're going to talk about flavor intensity.
I think medium plus.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it medium plus. I mean, it's very expressive. Like it was whatever all the things we talked about. Like to me, it's coming out very expressively. Um, and I just opened like I didn't have a chance to decant it or have it
And
open.
neither did I. Yeah.
So I know it will even open up further. But yeah, even right now, it's quite expressive. So I'm gonna call it medium plus as well. Um, Medium plus, and then do you confirm everything that Liz
In
and Kayla?
agreement. I didn't really. I definitely, kind of agree with the citrus. Green fruit, I like maybe I felt like there was like a tinge of green fruit, but not like pronounced.
Yeah.
Citrus was what was like hitting me.
Yeah, I mean that's Caricante.
Yeah,
Caricante is so citrus driven.
yeah,
And that's part of like what I like, why I love drinking this wine, especially in the summertime, is because it's
yeah.
like it's so
No,
high
it's
in
super.
acid, so minerally. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
so definitely the mineral. Like I like agree, super minerally, and I think that Phil said something about Flint. Like there is that like and maybe this is what we're gonna get to. Like maybe it's the kind of where it's the terroir and the kind of
yeah.
the lava and stuff like that. But there's
Yeah,
definitely
exactly. It's not just like this whetstone or like chalky
Mhm,
thing. There's a
mhm.
distinctive kind of like flinty, smoky kind of like a
Yeah,
minerality running
yeah,
through it. Very dark in its rock. Like I mean, again, it may be a power suggestion knowing that this is comes from lava essentially, but like there's a lot of like a black rock, like a black minerality, like dark rock minerality, like smoky, flinty, things like that. But yeah, everything else I pulled out, maybe touch of white flour. I think that's actually a good call, and I get it now. I guess some of this green fruit, but mostly like gooseberry, if anything, not like apple or pear, but definitely lemon, ton of lemon. No stone fruit, no tropical fruit for me. None of this, really fresh, ripe. I do get some, maybe fennel is not the right call, but I do get some like savory non-fruit thing on this thing. I'm calling it a fennel, but it may come off as something else for other people. But there's definitely something that's other than just fruit and flour here. There's something savory and non-sweet. No spices for me. And then yeah, Flint, just smoky, stone, all of that.
the yeah
No
secondary or
secondary, tertiary. If anything, I can see the evidence of the kind of the lees aging because I've had. It's probably because I've had a Caricante that hasn't had much lees aging. And this probably went through a full mallow, but that hasn't gone through mallow, but it can be like really sharp and really angular. But this doesn't feel that aggressive, abrasive. There's some roundedness, there's something all the like kind of I mean the acid is still high and ripping, but the it doesn't feel very sharp and jagged. Like the kind of like the edges have been just kind of sanded just a little bit. And then I think that's a function of the batonnage, the stirring of the leaves and just aging on the leaves for a little bit. So I see the evidence of it, but I don't necessarily get these flavors. Let's put it that way. And then definitely no tertiary. The one is too young for it to have a tertiary. Cool. The finish. How long is the finish?
medium, definitely medium plus, medium.
So at least medium.
It's at least medium. And maybe it depends on where you are in terms of how,
Yeah, I mean it's a
like,
temperature and
how
then
opened up it is.
totally. Um, I don't know. I'm still getting some minerality and all this stuff. So lower in the medium plus, high in the medium. I think depending on where your wine is. Mine is, I literally opened it right before call. Um, so I'm sure it will change or open up quite a bit. But yeah, as of right now, it's somewhere right between low end of medium plus, high end of medium is kind of where I am.
Yeah.
All right, bring it on for us. Then how good is this
So
wine?
I think this was a sound wine, clear sound balance. It got lots of medium pluses. And so I would kind of land in the good to very good in terms of quality.
Yeah, I mean, you call it out. Everything's balanced here. I mean, one could argue that acid is here is really high, but I don't think it's stopping me from experiencing anything. Uh, Medium plus in terms of intensity, we call it medium plus on the nose, medium to medium plus on the palate. And then the complexity, we call that little flower, citrus, maybe a little green fruit, fennel, something savory, ton of minerality. Um, so like that's like there's no secondary, tertiary. You can see the sign of a batonnage, but not really flavor. So it's somewhere between like medium, I would say, for complexity, and then for the length we call it medium plus, or high end of medium, low end of medium plus, depending on where your wine is. So looking at all of that, balance, medium plus intensity, medium complexity, medium to medium plus length. So we're landing somewhere between medium plus, maybe a little bit, if anything, slightly more towards medium plus than medium. So being a generous taster that I am, I'm going to call this very good.
Good. Yeah. No, I like it a lot. It's very refreshing.
Yeah. Level of readiness for drinking and potential for aging. Would you?
I think it's definitely drinkable now. I, because of I guess the acidity, it could be aged for a couple of years, but I don't know if this is necessarily like meant to be, laid down for, 10 years or something, like maybe 2 to 5.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting candidate for aging because, it's not like it's such opulent with fruit and flour, all that approachable things. What it is that there's so much of like this savory. I mean, yes, there's lemon and maybe some white flour and all this stuff, but it's not like a fruit-driven wine. You know what I mean? It's very savory. Uh, so I do think it's drinking beautifully right now, but because one, it has that high acid or medium plus acid, so it has this clear backbone, solid backbone, and for all the flavors to stick onto. And as this wine ages, I think it's going to get more complex, even if some of that lemon became kind of a non-fruit flavors. I personally think this would be an interesting wine to see where it's going to go. So I would say. Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think it's meant to be aged forever. But I would say, given the acid on this thing, I think it's gonna be just fine. It's not gonna fall apart anytime soon. But 5 to 8 years, I think it would be
Yeah.
exactly where this would be. Um, cool. Any questions? Any disagreements? Any concerns?
Yeah, this after it decanted a little while, it calmed down. It wasn't as strong. The acid
Yeah.
didn't jump out on the right in the first sip.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, give it some time. Like this wine, I've had this wine. I think I tasted it over a few days when I got it as a sample. But I think if I remember correctly, it drank the best on like day 2 or day 3, somewhere around there. So, it definitely opens up quite a bit with what's on there. Did you guys like this wine? Just out of curiosity, did anybody not like this wine?
Like this wine.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard not to like Mount Etna white, if you ask me. But um, all right, let's actually play the price game, and then I'll go into the kind of the nerdy details about volcanic soil and all of that. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? And how much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? It is Mount Etna after all. Mount Etna is not cheap. But it is a very small producer. It is a local importer. What do you think this is? We called it very good with a 5 to 8 year aging potential. 28, 26, 28, 35, 30, and 30. And the closest person, the winner, 45, 32, is Liz. This would be 36 bucks in a retail store. It's about what you would expect from Mount Etna. Mount Etna doesn't never gets that cheap. It's just again that popularity. It's become too damn popular for its own good. So the price has gone up. I mean, wines are very good. Don't get me wrong, but and it's still a lot of
Technically, it's not Mount Etna, though.
yeah. Technically, it's not Mount Etna. You're right. It's a Siciliane, but yeah, 36 for a bottle of Mount Etna is or Etna White it's not it's a very reasonable bottle, I'll say. All right. So let me talk about the salinity in this bottle because this was the weird one. This was the one that kind of got me going down a rabbit hole, but also didn't really know what to think. So for the longest time, always when you talk about a Mount Etna white, that's the first thing that comes on. It's minerally salty, and it's widely believed that it's the volcanic soil itself that makes it salty. But we all know, or at least just having studied this idea of minerality in wine, it's not like the actual rocks in the soil somehow get transported from the soil and ends up in the grapes or in the wine. It just doesn't work that way. So then what is it about volcanic soil that makes it salty? So that's the kind of rabbit hole I went down on with this wine. And there are kind of two things that popped up. So one is the volcanic soil itself. It's not that the soil itself, it's not like the wine or the grape is like a straw that sucks up all these different salinity and different minerality in the soil and then sucks it up. It doesn't work that way, but the volcanic soil itself makes the wine taste minerally or salty because the vine absorbs the minerals from the lava. Or people often say that. But what I came to realize, and after looking at a few studies and research, is that it's not necessarily the characteristic of volcanic, even that there's one study that shows about how it produces different ions in the soil, and the grapes can absorb some of those ions, including sodium and chloride. And the sodium chloride is essentially table salt, right? And a higher level, a sufficient amount of level that if the grapes were to suck that up, that it could express itself as salty. But oftentimes, how the grape absorbs these ions in the soil is very selective. And what these studies found is that mostly they end up in leaves. They're not necessarily in the grapes themselves. So this idea that this sodium and chloride ions are being absorbed by the grapes from the volcanic soil and ending up in wine is not really, it doesn't really prove up. So what is it then? What is it about volcanic soil? And everybody points to the soil, and that's what makes it salty. And it's all the other things, essentially how that soil changes the environment that vine grows in. So things like, depending on the different soil type, it changes the drainage, it changes the water availability, which affects the rooting and nutrient availability. So all of that changes the pH level, it changes the kind of the environment in which the vine grows. And that's really what gives it the environment in which the salinity can express itself, but it's not even, well, hold on to that for a second. So yeah, so it changes essentially the environment in which the vine grows, but also compound that with the Caricante itself, which is, if we looked at anything from last week and the week before, I think we've kind of proven that it's almost a prerequisite for the vines to have a high acid for it to express itself as salty. Rarely will you ever find low acid white wines to be salty because that acidity is essentially what gives the wine that kind of savory sensation that our human brain interprets as a saline or savory. So all of that combined with the carry content, which is super high in acid naturally, right? Um, and also the fermentation itself, where during the fermentation, it produces this particular compound called succinic acid. And it literally tastes like sour, bitter, and kind of salty to a human palate. And the volcanic soil and the where the things I mentioned, the drainage, water availability, the rooting, and the nutrient availability, all those things, the environment that it creates for the vines to grow in, it causes the wine to produce more succinic acid than maybe it would have without it. At least one of the study that I saw was pointing to that direction. So it's not necessarily the volcanic itself, the soil itself is being absorbed by the grape and causing it to be salty. It's just that it's causing the environment to change, which causes it to produce more succinic acid, which our human palate interprets as saline and savory. So it's not a clear-cut answer. It was just a volcano, but there's many, many different factors that kind of go into how this wine ends up being kind of quote unquote salty. Now, there's another second part. So that's kind of what I was going down on. That's the rabbit hole that I was going down on, reading all these different things. But then my importer, Christina Doria, sent me a voicemail that she got from the winemaker, this winemaker, Gianluca. And he was talking about something that I've never heard of before. And what he was talking about is that in Italian winemakers, in Italian winemaking culture, they have this idea of sapidity, sapidity. So sapidity, or sapidità is the Italian word for it, which is very different from salty. In fact, the Italian winemakers view salty in the wine as a fault. They actually don't want their wine to be salty. They want their wine to be sapid. So then I went down this way rabbit hole. I was like, what exactly are they talking about? What is sapid? How does that happen? And all of it. But from what I can gather, and by the way, if anybody's more interested in like reading the actual research behind all this, I can send you all the things that I read. And actually would love to, hear what you guys think about it or how you interpret that, if you want to get that nerdy. Um, but sapid or sapidita is much broader. What he was talking about is in Italian wine tasting vocabulary, it describes a wine that feels like savory, mouth-watering, energetic, and intensely flavorful, often with like a mineral or slightly like saline impression, but it's not actual salt. It's not without literally tasting like somebody put a salt in the wine, but it's more of a sensation rather than the actual taste. So like last week's wine, right? The Albarino. It tasted like there was actual ocean water, like somebody put actual like the salt in the wine. As opposed to this week's salty here is different to me. Also, it feels different to me. To me, it doesn't taste salty, but it's more of overall kind of savory sensation. And what he was talking about is similar to kind of what I was saying, is that it's not the presence of a sodium chloride that's in here, but it's that acidity, subtle saltiness to some of the ions from the soil did end up here. There's a touch of bitterness here because this Caricante just has a lot of phenolics. And then the kind of the umami savory compounds or the nature of the wine. And then texturally, just it being just really acid and high. All of that is essentially what he was saying about is sapid. This wine is sapid. It's not salty, it's sapid. And I think in a way, from everything that I've kind of tried to research and go down on from first week to this week, it's almost I'm starting to get what he's talking about. I don't think it's necessarily maybe exception of last week's wine, because last week's wine is that there's some research pointing to the fact that there's actual salt that ends up in the Albarino vineyards and ends up on the skins and ends up in the wine. So there's actual salt. There's actual elevated sodium chloride in the wine. But most wines that we talk about salty is actually maybe we should be calling it salt, but maybe we should be, this is more of kind of what Italians talk about, the sapid. So maybe, this box should not be called salt boxes. Maybe it should be called sapid box because, it's more of what are the factors, what are the different things that are kind of tricking or how our human brains and sensations interpret as savory even without the presence of actual salt in the wine. It's like, so that's the kind of like the direction that I'm going down on now. It's like, okay, so for so long as it's more of idea of like, all right, so how does sodium and chloride end up in wine and to make it salty? But now it's becoming clear that it's not actually sodium and chloride, even though it can be elevated in certain wines. It's actually general combination of these different factors is what's making wine quote unquote salty. Again, not real salt, but come off as a savory to human palate. So what exactly are those? And the common themes that are coming up is the acidity, obviously, is the most common prerequisite that I'm seeing. But then there's also a textural thing that happens with the lees aging. There's some of that the phenolics that we talk about with the wine itself. Some of that bitterness that comes from it. So all that kind of savory flavor or sensation is what all combined is what essentially coming off as salty. So I am more and more this deeper and deeper in this rabbit hole I go down on. More questions I have than I actually have answers. So anyways, that's kind of where I ended up with this one. So it's not the actual volcanic soil itself that makes it salty as I thought, or as I have been told, or many people believe or claim. But it's the many other factors like the growing environment and the consequential the fermentation environment that changes because of that succinic acid and all of that is what makes Mount Etna salty as opposed to last week's wine, which actually had some ocean spray in the vineyard. So, anyways, sorry. That's what I got. I don't think that's answering a lot of questions. I think that actually opens up more questions than it actually answers questions, but that's where I'm at. So, anyways, there you go. Any questions about any of that?
I learned a lot, Boone. And I will also say that when I told Kevin about this month's box, and I said we were going to be exploring salinity and what, created the experience of salinity in wine. And he was like, oh, I thought it was just like the vineyard was near the ocean and like the ocean salt got on the grapes or something. And I was like, oh my God, Kevin, that's so stupid. So then last week I felt really bad and I had to apologize to him because I was like, what a stupid basic thing. And then I had to eat my words and apologize for shaming him.
Yeah, I mean, it's also not definitive that is what's happening. But yes, it's
But
most likely what's
I
happening.
should maybe just like not mock my life partner is maybe another option. But
What a simpleton. You only. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm taking away from this month and like more and more research I do is that it's not actual salt in wine. There's no actual salt in wine somehow, but it's coming off salty to us. And then it's a variety of different factors, including fermentation, growing environment, and all of that is what's making that way. So it just like you start answering one question and then like it opens up 10 more questions and then it just like gets bigger and bigger. So that's kind of where I don't know if I'm making this, I hope it was that I can find some clear answers, but I feel like I'm making it even more confusing for everybody as this month goes on. So I apologize for that.
I think it's kind of nice that there's something we don't really know. I feel like we know so many things. Like like we are like these people on this call don't know everything. We know a lot of things, but the information is out there, and it's kind of interesting when you're like, oh no, like we actually don't know this, like, you know, whether that's because we just haven't researched it enough, or, you know, there hasn't been enough money putting in to figure it out. I don't know, it's kind of refreshing.
All right. Well, good. I'm just trying to scratch my own nerdy itch and then, bring you guys along with it. That's all. And I just feel like it's just getting itchier and itchier because I can't really find a clean-cut answer.
They have creams for that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Cool.
So do you think if there was, because I thought so last week, if there was more residual sugar, we wouldn't taste as much salt,
Hmm.
salinity,
Yeah,
because the acid would be
exactly. Precisely. Precisely. Yeah, so the dry, low sugar, high acid is almost like a prerequisite. I'm seeing as a pattern. Like that is basically the starting point, but there's a lot of different things that can happen during winemaking, during wine growing, viticulture, as well as vinification that can change. But the viticulture part can be, hugely altered by the environment it grows in, the soil it's in, all of that. So learned about succinic acid this week. I was like, what the fuck is succinic acid? And yeah, it's a cool thing that I went down on this week. Any other questions? Did you guys, oh yeah, I
The
already asked
last
that.
question, do you think if he reduced the acid, the salinity would have gone down by, keeping it more mild?
I would think so, because I think that acid is part of what makes the wine appear more savory, right? Because it tamps down the sugar and everything else. So I would imagine if, this was a deacidified or if he were to manipulate the wine somehow, I think our perception of the wine would be less salty. That would be my assumption. I don't know for sure though. Any other questions?
What other regions does this grape grow? Can you remind me?
The
This
Caricante?
the Caricante. Yeah, remind me.
I mean, it grows in different parts of Sicily, but it's pretty much Sicily.
It's just Sicily. Okay.
Yeah, just Sicily. I've never seen Caricante grown anywhere else.
You haven't grown. Okay. All right. I just wanted to be clear. And then the other thing that I'm just so fascinated about is like that the DOC area of Etna being
Mhm.
sort of just like the non-Western facing part of the
Mhm.
mountain. I think that's
Yeah.
so interesting. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you see that a lot. Like, the most prized vineyards are usually south or southeast facing, just
yeah,
because, you get more
because you
sunlight,
get more.
obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Um,
and then I guess the other question that I had about this guy was like, does he grow red grapes?
he does. So he just recently
And what did you
planted.
think of that? Yeah.
I haven't tried his red, but I saw on his website that he just planted like 1,000 Morello Mescalese grapes. So it may be a little bit. I don't know when he exactly planted and when that website was updated. So it takes about 5 years before he can, make a commercial vintage. So he may already have it, or he may be just coming out with it. But yes, he started making red wine as well. I like his wines. I mean, I've tasted his other ones as well, but they're all really well made, really good wines. Any other questions? Do you guys drink a lot of Sicilian wines? Just out of curiosity. I know Charles does. Yeah. Yeah. Sicilian wines are good. Yes.
This was one of 3 we drank tonight, actually. We pulled together a Sicilian wines in honor.
Ah. What other Sicilian wines did you guys drink tonight?
Show it.
Let's see. So we had another white that I don't
Mhm.
know. Can you guys see this? We can't see ourselves on camera.
I took it off because it was killing it.
My computer is terrible at connection. Sorry. Etna Rosado Contrada Volpare.
Okay.
Yeah, Malgeri.
Malgari. That's
Okay.
white. Another white, not Etna. And then this is maybe my favorite wine of the moment is this beautiful Etna Rosso.
Redo.
Uh,
I don't know that producer. Okay. Cool.
Crazy face.
Oh, there he goes.
I,
He's back.
I assume it's a Nerello Mescalese.
Say it again.
I assume it's a Nerello Mescalese. Or maybe it's a
Rosso.
Around, yeah.
Right.
Niredo. Yeah,
Yeah.
Niredo.
Yeah. Cool.
But what is what's the grape? Is it Etna Rosso or is it Nired?
So Nerello Mescalese is the main grape, and then there are other blending grapes like Nerello Cappuccio. There's one more, but it's all Nerello something. But Nerello Mescalese is the main grape.
yeah, it doesn't
It's
give any
weird.
of
It just says red wine.
Yeah, I mean, Edna Rosso. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
the Edna wines they won't.
They won't tell you what grape.
Yeah, they won't list the grapes.
Interesting.
It's a very European.
Okay.
But it's
Don't
freaking
ask.
delicious. Absolutely delicious. And exactly the price point that we talked about with this wine. So
Yeah, Mount Etna. It's about this one. Cool.
One more question.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could stumble through this, I was thinking about the term of sapidity
Mm-hmm.
and how it relates more broadly in winemaking. Is that something, I guess it's one result, one outcome that you have in a wine, but is that something that it's more like Sicilian winemakers on Mount Etna are going for that?
No, it's
Or
so
is it
I've heard.
more of a broad term, and then
I've never heard that until this guy started talking about it. But what he was saying was that in Italian winemaking culture, that's kind of what Italian winemakers talk about. So it's not just Sicily and him, because then Christina reached out to another producer. I think she's in Abruzzo actually. Um, and because I was tasting some wines from Abruzzo as well. And so she asked her about what Gianluca was saying about the sapidity in wine. And it's like, totally, like we as Italians, I believe in sapidity. I don't believe in saltiness. Um, and I mean, to me, it makes sense. Like to me, the best wines have that kind of a balance of both savory and sweet, like the fruit and the
yeah,
savory, right? And maybe the other winemakers from other cultures maybe not be talking about it through that word sapidity, but even like whole cluster fermentation is a way to kind of achieve that, right? Like you get the fruit from the berries and all of that, but you get the savoriness from the stems inclusion. So maybe there's this kind of an idea of having a savory thing that comes out that actually exaggerates or amplifies even the sweetness or the fruit nature of the wine. So like the idea of a baker's putting a little bit of salt in a cookie dough or a cake recipe and all of that. And when you ask them why do you put salt in a sweet things, that they all say it actually makes it sweeter because our human palate interprets all those things as a sweeter when there's a touch of a salinity. So that's my best guess and
yeah.
interpretation without obviously having talked to them directly. I think that's kind of what they're talking about is that because a lot of what he was talking about is that the sapidity is actually what brings out the fruit and makes the wine more expressive. Not only savory, but more expressive. So.
So across Sicily, that's something they're talking about with all wines, or is there a lot of variation?
I think it's all, I mean, at least from what I'm gathering, that is like an Italian thing. Italian winemakers talk
got
about the sapidity. So yeah, I asked Christina to see, because she imports only Italian winemakers. I was like, see if she can ask some other winemakers from other regions. So next time I see her, I'll ask her. But yeah, so we'll see.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
the salt reduces the bitterness that we would have had if it wasn't that salty flavor.
I don't think the salt reduces the bitterness. I think the bitterness is a part of the one of the factors in what makes the wine appear more, maybe perhaps what we're calling salty, but more savory at least. So, and next week we're going to talk more about this as well, particularly next week, because really next week, like there's nothing about winemaking or the soil type or anything that should make the wine really salty, but there's some salinity to it. And the reason I chose that wine was because I got introduced to this concept of certain grape varieties just expresses salinity better than others. And why is that? And I think it's because of it's just high in phenolics. So the grapes that are just naturally high in phenolics tend to, of course, combine with other factors I mentioned, like high acid, um, and other things that is what makes the wine appear salty. It's not the bitterness itself was making it salty, but it's combined with other things. It's what's making the wine appear or express itself as salty to human palates. It's at least what I've gathered so far. I don't know if that answers your question, but anything else? Cool. Hearing none. I'm going to turn off the recording.